We have this from the Daily Mail. Corrupt file and system reboot caused all U.S. flights to be grounded for the first time since 9/11. NOTAM system and backup were both infected with corrupt file as pilots slam ridiculous decision to ground planes. I don't believe these people. I almost feel like when you get AOC coming out calling for a Green New Deal, saying we got to get rid of planes and farting cows, that when these people ground every single plane in the country, and maybe it's political or ideological. Now, I don't know anything about that for sure, but I can't tell you this. The FAA, verified on Twitter, tweeted out, cleared update number 2 for all stakeholders. The FAA is still working to fully restore, blah, 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 you get the point. I noticed the word stakeholders. Yes, I know some people mention that stakeholder has been used in certain contexts like this for some time. But in 2021, October, the FAA announced they'd be changing their language to be more inclusive. They then start talking about how they're stakeholders, blah, blah, blah. The World Economic Forum is pushing what's called stakeholder capitalism. The idea is a shareholder is represented by those who own shares. State capitalism is represented by the state. And stakeholder is better because it's everyone. The environment, the neighbors, the people downstream, the people upstream, the people on the other side of the planet. Yeah, basically sounds like communism.
Oh, 100%.
Basically sounds like state capitalism, except for the planet instead of an individual state. Where they're basically like, they actually say this on there's a website called Advanced ESG. And they're like, basically saying that with a guiding force, stakeholder capitalism, blah, blah, blah. This is why it's important, because I want to show you this one. I know they're different stories. I talked about this morning. But MIA, the musician, mentioned that she got booted from a concert. The email says, we have not taken, they kick her out. They say, your tweets were bad. We have not taken this decision lightly, but we must consider the wider risks to the festival and its stakeholders. There's an important connection between these stories. The phrase stakeholder. Did this concert that banned MIA call all of their stakeholders?
Doubtful.
Did they email the people who bought tickets who are stakeholders?
Did they even define who the stakeholders are?
Exactly. They are. What they're basically saying is, we're doing this for you. Mm-hmm. We're doing all of this for you. So when the FAA is coming out saying all the planes are shut down, everyone, we're all in this together, but we're not, because they're not consulting us. They're not asking us what we want. They're telling us what they want. And they're using stakeholder as a word to make you think you're part of it. But my friends, that's like the chickens thinking they work with me when I own them.
The thing about shareholder capitalism is that it's on contract. If you have a percentage of a company or shares in a company, you have a contract to verify. Stakeholder is just, it's subjective. Like, one day I could dump trash upriver and say everyone downriver is a stakeholder in my behavior because they're all going to be affected by it. But then the next day I could say, no, I put a dam in there or a sifting mechanism. Now those people aren't stakeholders anymore because I changed the way my system works. So you have no recourse as a stakeholder in those systems. Is completely controlled from the top. I highly warn against it. I think Klaus is taking us down, or attempting to take us down, a very dangerous road. Klaus Schwab with his World Economic Forum, stakeholder capitalism. And you're right, Tim, it is communism. It's a form of communism.
All I know is Pete Buttigieg is having a bad week.
Why is
bad few months. He's had all these disasters happen and crises happen under, on his watch, basically. I mean, it was like the railroad strike and then the shipping container issue. And wasn't there was one other one before this that happened recently.
He went on vacation, disappeared.
Oh yeah, it was like in not Puerto Rico. Look at me, I can't remember. I don't know.
Something like that.
There's been like 4 or 5 issues consecutively that just have, he hasn't been dealing with that great. But that's what happens when you make a diversity hire. You hire the gay guy just because he's gay, right? I mean, he really had no experience or accomplishments to really put him in this position. I
don't necessarily think it was a diversity hire for Buttigieg. No, I think they're trying to tee him up for a future political career. And he needed something beyond just being a mayor.
I guess it's just really, I mean, that job, that position is just a weird one. But
he's cis, so it's like he doesn't even qualify as diversity at this point.
He's
like,
what?
Cis.
Oh, cis.
Yeah, right.
Oh, cis. Yeah, no, that's
when yeah. See, I got you.
Okay.
When they were talking about him, like all the activists on Twitter were like, he doesn't count as LGBT because he's a white man.
Just being gay isn't enough anymore, especially being white and gay. Yeah. No, that's very low. That's very low on the ranks now.
Yeah, he's not a diversity hire.
I guess not. You've proved me wrong.
Do you guys think that the this FAA issue with the the computer program is a false flag and or a computer virus that a foreign country put in the system?
Many people speculated it might have been a cyber attack.
Yeah.
The Biden administration said it wasn't. I would lean more towards they're intentionally crippling the economy, and this had a profound impact. We were affected by this. We had people who needed to fly out for work, and we had a hiccup that delays us. What y'all need to understand about economic warfare, let me tell you something. China and the US, they're both at war. A component of that war, and a component of every war is, let's go all the way to the beginning, putting food in bellies. The saying goes that soldiers march on their stomachs. If you can't feed your soldiers, you lose the war. That is to say, you need to find food, and you need to be growing that food. There need to be people who are working farms, otherwise there's no war. So for someone like China or Russia or anyone else at war, shutting down our capability of flight means all this economic activity just ceases, and that means our ability to develop tech, our ability to run our businesses is diminished. Simply put, it's very similar to if you were at war with someone thousands of years ago and you set fire to all their farms so they couldn't feed their soldiers. Our planes getting shut down may seem like, well, we can't fly and have fun and go travel on vacation. But in reality, it means with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of flights canceled, business is shutting down.
For days, too, because it'll be people trying to catch up. I think when we talk about insurrection, people say they marched into the Capitol building and stood there, that they destroyed or disrupted the government, maybe in part. This is the kind of thing that's an insurrection. If these were American citizens that implanted a virus, like shutting down the electrical grid, the transportation system, the food supply, though that's real insurrection in an economic warfare state.
The fact that they're using the World Economic Forum terminology just says to me, like, outright, I don't trust them. Because these are the same people who are like, we shouldn't be flying on planes. Planes are bad. But they all fly on private jets.
With their 5,000 jets at the climate summit.
Exactly. They don't want you to have it because you're a pleb, but they should have it.
Yeah.
Because, well,
but
those
that's not
planes
fair.
Well, it's bad for our stakeholders. But me flying on a private jet to do the work that I do to save the world is good for our stakeholders. You see how that works?
Yeah, they consider that a benefit for the earth because they're so important and they're such geniuses that they're going to go solve it. But they need to take their private jet and cruise on their private yachts, mega yachts. And it's all part of the process. You have to trust the process and the science.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Stakeholder capitalism is the future, my friend.
It makes no sense. I don't understand. I still don't understand it.
It's communism. It doesn't
you're
make
not
it impossible.
supposed to understand it. You're
it's not
supposed
capitalism.
to be confused.
I'll tell you exactly what it is. It is Chinese-style communism. If you read their website, they say that stakeholder capitalism takes into consideration anyone impacted by a business, not just the shareholders and the customers. This allows free market opportunities to flourish while still being responsible, and that's meaningless.
This is about the centralization of power. Very few people have a lot of power. They want all of it. They want more of it. So what better way to do it than to think of these new buzzwords that, of course, amount to anything. And essentially what they're building up to here, some people have called it the Great Reset. Some people have called it the UN 2030 agenda. Some people have called it the New World Order. At the end of the day, all of it leads to is the massive centralization of power for themselves. Davos is about to start next week, and their theme for next week is, quote, cooperation in a fragmented world. The list of attendees was released, and it's the FBI director, the CEOs of Amazon, BlackRock, Pfizer, the Gates Foundation, the Soros Network, 52 heads of state, 600 CEOs are going to be meeting at one of the highest points in all of Europe, where they, of course, will meet privately, talk about a lot of things publicly as well. But at the end of the day, this is a list of just absolute lunatic criminals coming together that are going to come together in a way that benefits them. And they're going to think of more schemes, more buzzwords in order to convince you to give up your power and authority to them.
You know what this makes me think of is the Bilderberg group or the Bilderberg meetings. Remember that?
Yep.
Whatever happened to those?
They still happen. I covered it last year, and it was me and my friend Josh Friedman that covered it, and we were the only two journalists there.
Wow.
And you can still see that coverage on my YouTube channel, but no one else really talks about it.
I thought they dropped off and this was their new gig, but it's still happening.
Well, there's private meetings amongst other private meetings. There's smaller groups and bigger groups, and when you have so many powerful people come together in one room, when you have the FBI director coming and meeting with the heads of Pfizer, there's a lot of ability there for them to, of course, say, I'm going to give you this money in this way. You just just kind of make sure you weaponize the intelligence state to go after our critics. And to think that that's not happening, that these people aren't colluding together and conspiring together for their own personal benefit is absolutely
that's
naive.
the sole purpose. Does anybody believe otherwise, truly?
Yeah. Well, when we look at these meetings and we look at what these people say, especially Yoel Roth Harari, they're coming on and saying there's going to be a time very soon where people are going to be useless. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to need to adjust themselves to live in virtual reality.
Yeah.
A lot of individuals who won't have any meeting, who won't have any jobs, who will be absolutely meaningless in our world, and we won't need them. So this is what they're thinking about. This is a part of also their fourth industrial revolution. Klaus Schwab likes to talk about this as well. But essentially, this is the larger takeover of our life and our society for the benefit of the very few.
You got a couple of names mixed up. It's Yuval Noah Harari.
Yeah, Yuval.
Yoel Roth is the Twitter guy that got fired.
They look very similar, by the way.
Similar names.
They look extremely similar. Thank you for that fact check.
Yuval Noah Harari is a fascinating guy. He wrote *Sapiens*, the book, and I mean, in a way, they're talking about the transhumanist, evolution and how we are, in a lot of ways, we're becoming cyborgs. Maybe inevitably, maybe. So I think it's not like they're completely wrong about everything and pure evil. Like they're just trying to find a way to make things not go to World War III. But I don't agree with that direction.
I think
Where did you get that?
They're
obsessed with chaos. They do not want chaos. They're obsessed with preventing chaos.
That's not
They're
true.
the masters
They're
of
sowing
chaos.
chaos.
There's a thing called order out of chaos. They sow the chaos in order to get they create the problem in order to create the solution which benefits them. That's their kind of code book that they've been working from for a very long time. Because you look at a lot of our problems that humanity deals with, these problems are usually engineered from a top level and done in a way where, of course, people will galvanize towards them, asking them to please stop, or only when they give up their money or their rights does it stop. And then it never does stop. It's just a larger con game that people keep playing into that's screwing them over.
Yeah, I thought 9/11 was like that. Just whip people up into a frenzy, got them all to go to war in the Middle East for weapons that didn't exist, and then... So you think the next one's aliens or something?
The pandemic is a great example too. I mean, they manufactured this fear, by the indoctrination. They honestly groomed society with this. Big Pharma groomed them and all of their cohorts, but to make them basically beg for a vaccine to open back up, to give them their lives back.
Trump.
What?
Trump was the one who sped Operation Warp Speed. Was all him.
Don't get me started.
They engineered a lot of things.
Exactly,
with that.
but then they come in with their solutions to the problems they create. Like if COVID wasn't put on TV and just blasted everywhere 24/7 for like a year and a half, 2 years, people would not think anything of it. They'd think they were getting a cold or a flu or whatever.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.